Hello there. Hi, I'm Santi at Soul Growth Wellness, and today I'm going to be talking about self acceptance. Nice long road. You can look at previous videos if you like. But basically, what we're going to be talking about today is self compassion. And in this three-part video series that I did, a mini series within the self acceptance series, I've dealt previously with self approval and self love, and now I'm talking about self compassion. Because they're actually not the same thing. They're in the similar wheelhouse. They all kind of go together, but I do think of them as separate and distinct things. So today is about self-compassion. And basically, in a nutshell, self-compassion is the ability to be kind to yourself when you do not live up to the expectations that you have of yourself or the expectations that other people have of you. And I would say specifically the expectations we have of ourselves, because something that happens in a human life, in our lives, is that we oftentimes internalize the expectations that others have of us inside of us. That's what it means to internalize it. It's inside our minds and even inside our bodies. An example of that could be when you're younger and you're a kid, you kind of think to yourself, well, I need to follow the rules in order to make sure that I'm well taken care of. And that can turn into a really big situation later on in your life. It might mean that you follow the rules, to a T when you're working, when you're doing certain other things in terms of how people operate in social circles. And when you're observing all these rules that people have, if you find people breaking them, it might get to the point where you're feeling very judgmental of them or you're feeling very judgmental of yourself. If the opposite end happens and you find that you seem to break a lot of the rules that you see are out there, or you really try to follow them, but you just can't seem to do it perfectly, that can again turn into a lot of negative self talk and thinking of yourself in a very negative light. And so, self compassion is specifically, I would say, a concept or the ability, the capacity to be kind to yourself, to be generous to yourself, to honestly give yourself a break, and to do it in a way that doesn't mean that you just fly off the handle and you're no longer responsible and you don't meet any of your obligations, but that you recognize that it's okay to say, you know what, I messed up. I didn't do this the way that I would prefer or the way that someone else would prefer, and that's okay. That's an okay thing to happen, and that I don't have to look at myself and think, you're a terrible person, you're a piece of doo-doo, you shouldn't exist. I mean, I hear really, really awful self-criticisms people say to themselves often, either in coaching sessions or in different groups I'm a part of on Facebook. But, people are, and I'm part of this, people can be very hard on themselves and call themselves really nasty names and say really dispiriting and disempowering things about themselves. Like, I'll never be good enough. I'll never get any better at something. It's always going to be this way. And when you have those types of ideas, you are operating in a place of a lack of self compassion. It means that you are not being kind or being generous to yourself or cutting yourself the break that you need because, hey, guess what? You're a human being. I'm a human being. Everyone that we come around, in these parts are human beings. And so, because we're human beings, it means that we're going to make errors in judgment, that we're going to do things that sometimes have consequences that we interpret as negative or that other people outside of us interpret as negative. And when we have those consequences, necessarily, we sometimes feel guilty. We sometimes feel shame. We sometimes feel like a failure. And if you're not operating from a place of self compassion, then it's really, really difficult to find a way to come back to actually the first video, the self-approval, that I approve of myself despite me having made a mistake. And the same is true for self-compassion, that I will give myself the space, the space to be a human, the capacity to not put all of this pressure on oneself to meet the expectations again that you have internally, that you've internalized, or the expectations that other people have of you outside of you, again, depending on the roles that you have. As a friend, mother, fiance, worker, leader extraordinaire, there are a lot of pressures that we can have on ourselves based on what people think of us. And when we have all of that kind of working, That's when self-compassion is literally one of the strongest things that you can develop in yourself, because it's going to help you, I think, in a way. If I could give this kind of example, it's going to fill you up. It's going to keep you filled up when those pressures, the internal ones and the external ones, creep in, because we can't really get away from the fact that we will sometimes pressure ourselves. But self compassion is a way to keep full, to keep steady, and then eventually to even recognize, you know what? I don't need that pressure. I don't need that one either. Nope, man, I don't need those. And you can let them go. And then you can actually get into more self love, self approval, and ultimately self acceptance. So that's just a video that I wanted to share, because I also realized I didn't talk very much about myself with this. I also, again, still struggle with, I'll say, with self compassion. It's something that's been pretty difficult for me as of late, because I am very, very focused and very pressured right now to do a number of things in my business that are really important to me. And talking about this even now in the video has actually just been very cathartic and very helpful for me personally, because I hear it and I see it. And hopefully this has been helpful and useful for you too. So if you like the video and if you like the other ones, because I talk a lot about self-acceptance and the various ways that we do it or don't do it, what it's been like for someone individually, myself, to go on the self-acceptance journey, and to basically just kind of give people an idea of what it looks like and the uncomfortable variables and the triumphs that you get out of it as well. So if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you again. So thank you for watching. Bye.